Oh, that shot felt great. I really compressed the ball on that one. And that's a feeling that I know a lot of you out there have just never experienced before. And I feel bad because that feeling of compressing the ball out of the sweet spot is really the biggest thing that brings us back to golf the next day and the next day and the next day, is having those few shots that just feel like butter, magic. Right after this, I'm going to show you how to get maximum compression out of your shots and get that ooh feeling going as well by using just 2 alignment sticks. So stay tuned. Hey, this is Steve with HitItLonger.com. I continue my journey to hit the ball longer and straighter than I ever have before, and I hope to show you how to do it too. All right, so there's a lot of videos out there about compressing the ball that I think are hurting you. They're just really bad misinformation. Let's talk about the true way that you get the most ball compression. Number one, you have got to hit the ball in the center of the club face. That is a given. You can still compress it more than you're doing now by missing it around the center when you do the second thing that we're going to talk about today, which is a little bit complicated, but if you're not hitting the sweet spot, definitely got to figure out why to do that first. That would be your first step towards getting maximum compression, is figuring out why you may not be hitting the sweet spot or close to the sweet spot reasonably most of the time. Are you trending toe, trending heel? Do you trend low on the face? Or are you just all over the face? Sometimes it's just a lack of practice issue. And other times, if you're trending in certain directions like low heel, well, then we have to address some mechanical errors that you might be making in your swing. Okay, so once you were able to hit it reasonably close to the sweet spot, so now we're addressing, better golfers out there, golfers who might be single-digit handicap or interested in hitting the ball, striking the ball with all their clubs, more like the guys on TV do, when you just hear that different sound when you listen to them practice.
It's a little dead arm shot, not a big follow through. Shoot the hole! Off the tee, and those 2 balls.
So as promised, let's take these 2 alignment sticks so that I can illustrate for you how to get maximum amount of compression on all your shots. Okay, so what are we talking about? What is compression exactly? It's not squishing the ground. There's a lot of videos out there. They want you to really take a super deep divot. They want you to lean into it and come out the really, really steep and take a steep divot. That's really good for compressing the earth, but it's not going to do you any good to compress the ball. So really what compression is, aside from striking the center of the face, is the amount of spin loft that you apply to a shot. So there's this term spin loft, and we're going to define that in a moment. But you've probably heard the term smash factor. You probably even know that the maximum you can get on a driver smash factor is about 1.50 or so. Would signify that you've hit the ball not only in the sweet spot, but you've also compressed it highly, and you're going to get the most amount of distance from a driver smash factor of 1.50. However, a lot of people out there, they don't know what is the perfect smash factor, say on a 6-iron, something like that. So it depends on this thing you call spin loft. So essentially, compression equals smash factor. It's basically the same measurement. Smash factor really comes down to this term we call spin loft. So let's take a look at what spin loft is. First of all, we're going to use the yellow stick, and we're going to define this as our angle of attack. So if you're looking at somebody who's hitting that way, here is somebody who's hitting level into the ball. Doesn't matter what club. Let's say that here's their 9-iron or something, and they're hitting down on the ball as they come. The ball would be sitting right here, and you're making a descending blow into the ball that bottoms out in front of the ball. So your vector at impact would look like this. All right, that's going to be our yellow stick. The orange stick is going to measure our dynamic loft. Now, what is the dynamic loft exactly? The dynamic loft is the loft at the moment of impact relative to the ground. So you can see here's the ground. So let's say I'd have a certain amount of loft presented to the ball. Of course, I could add loft like this, and it is now presenting more loft. And here I can take away loft simply by manipulating the shaft forward and back. So you can lean it forward and almost get it to be like a 5-iron if you go far enough in terms of the dynamic loft. Okay, so we have our two terms so far. We have our angle of attack, or are you hitting down on the ball? Are you hitting level? Or if you're looking for distance, you'd like to hit up on your driver. You'd like your driver to be ascending at the moment it strikes the ball. So the orange stick is going to be our dynamic loft. Let's say we're going to take about a 7-iron or something like that. And let's just guess that a 7-iron is going to present about this much dynamic loft. Now, right now we're going to be using an angle of attack of level, or sweeping, you could say. And so here is our dynamic loft, or the angle of the club at the moment you strike the ball. So what a lot of people in other videos would like to have you do is simply just hit massively down on the ball by leaning into the shot, taking a big divot, getting your low point way out in front of the ball. And of course, you can see what that's going to do. It's going to make you strike the ball, probably launch it lower, because you're presenting less dynamic loft. Remember, we're measuring the orange stick is measured relative to the ground. So this is angle of attack. The ground is still the same, but you can see relative to the equator here, if I hit down on it, I can really make the ball take off and launch much lower, simply because I'm presenting less dynamic loft at the moment of impact. However, this has nothing to do, or little to do, with compressing the ball. Compressing the ball is not going to be linked to dynamic loft. It's going to be linked to spin loft, which equals smash factor, which equals compression. So what would we have to do besides hitting the sweet spot to increase our smash factor? The way we would do that, since it equates with spin loft, we would have to reduce the spin loft. Now, this piece of pie here, the difference between your angle of attack and your dynamic loft, this is going to be your spin loft. So let's say that you take a 7-iron, you hit down on the ball about 4 degrees, like somebody on TV might do with a 7-iron, and then your dynamic loft is, 25 degrees or something like that. The difference between the two, 25 minus a -4, would be 29 degrees. The 29 degrees stays the same whether you put the ball on a tee and hit up on your 7-iron as a trick shot, or if you were to try to flight it and really hit down on it sleepily. This pie has not changed. Therefore, the spin loft is the same. Therefore, the smash factor and the compression are the same. So it doesn't work to get, this is not the trick, as so many other videos on YouTube would like you to believe about compressing the ball. It has very little to do with tilting everything downwards like this, but instead we've got to narrow the gap between these two numbers. So either you could hit less downwards like this, and that closes the gap, or you could reduce the dynamic loft like this. The way that you would get the absolute most smash factor would be, or ball compression, they would match. In other words, you would have a 0-degree driver, let's say, and you were to sweep it at 0-degree angle of attack. That would give you 0 spin loft, and you would compress the ball the most that a golf ball could be compressed given the speed you're swinging at. Of course, you won't get any spin and the ball will just probably roll along the ground. So, but that's how you would do it. So you see, that's the extreme Now, if you're going to take the same club, a 7-iron though, and let's say your angle of attack is still 4 degrees, but you got to figure out how to reduce the dynamic loft without changing the angle of attack. The other thing you could do is leave the dynamic loft the same and then reduce the angle of attack and make it very sweepy like that. And anything you do, whether it's to move the bottom stick up or the top stick down, the smaller this pie, the greater degree of smash factor, because you have less spin loft. That's the difference between these two sticks. Therefore, less spin loft, given center face contact, more smash factor, and more compression of the golf ball. So compressing the golf ball doesn't really have much to do with the depth of your divot or the angle of attack of the shot. It has more to do with reducing the spin loft. We got to squeeze this pie together. Okay, so we talked about the dynamic loft. Here's our ground level for now. Ground is level. And there's my 9-iron. I'm striking it with the shaft a few inches ahead. So this presents a certain amount of dynamic loft. Okay, now I can take dynamic loft away, as I showed you earlier, by leaning the shaft more forward. Now, a lot of you out there really struggle with getting enough shaft lean at impact. And if I film a lot of my students, in fact, they have no shaft lean at impact, or sometimes the case is they even have backwards shaft lean at impact. You can see how that is increasing their dynamic loft. They're going to probably have very little compression or smash factor when they do that, unless of course you're hitting up on the ball at the same time, which is not a good idea when you're hitting the ball off of the turf. We probably need to have some sort of down strike or downwards angle of attack when we strike everything off the turf. It's probably the best practice to hit the ball flush in the center every time. All right, if I can reduce my dynamic loft, but not have a corresponding correlated increase in my angle of attack by just crashing into the ground this way, sure, that might compress the earth more, but it's not going to give me any more easy distance and that ooh feeling that you get when you really compress the ball. But instead, what I would need to do is make sure that as I make impact with my forward leaning shaft, that maybe I even shallow the angle of attack and come in sweeping, which is really starting to be a predominant style on tour, especially with short irons and wedges, that a lot of guys, you're starting to see them really pick wedge shots very clean. Helps them with spin control, distance control, and getting that maximum compression into the ball every time on all those scoring shots. All right, so practically what would that look like here? Remember, we have a reduction in dynamic loft by making impact with the shaft more forward leaning. But the strike itself will feel fairly level. Certainly not gouging down so much. Yes, your low point will still be in front of the ball and you'll hit the ball clean, but you just won't have this extreme downstrike and extreme low point location that a lot of other videos would have you do. So if you were to just do this on a small scale, the great thing about this is when you do it on a small scale, you can get this ooh-ah feeling, that butter feeling, pretty quickly. If you can have the shaft leaning way forward at impact, but do a very sweeping shot like that, that felt phenomenal, how good that felt. Not only did I strike that in the center, but I reduced my spin loft, therefore I created a higher smash factor, an out-of-the-world smash factor. Packed. In here, that's out of this world for a 9-iron, and that ball, given a scaling up clubhead speed, will really jump off the face and go a long way for a small amount of effort. So, sweeping angle of attack, forward shaft lean is going to give you less spin loft, more smash factor equals more ball compression. That is the true secret. We can talk more about hitting the center of the face more consistently in another video, because I know, well, that's the first step and that's the simpler of the two steps. I know a lot of you out there still really struggle with sweet spot contact. So stay tuned for more episodes, more videos on how to hit the face center more often. Again, thank you so much for watching all my videos. I'm Steve. Would you please hit like and subscribe to help me get over the 100,000 subscriber barrier? I think we're going to have a really special live broadcast once we get to that point, and I'm kind of putting it into the planning works right now, but it's all up to you. Hit the red subscribe button and help me get over 100,000. Hey, as usual, I'll either see you in the next video or I'll see you longer and straighter down the fairway. Everybody take good care.